There we go. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anthony Mazzaro. This is my interview for my term paper entitled Cancer Prevention, Individual and Department Measures. Today, I'm joined by Captain Baker. Captain Baker is in charge of the Engine 12 in Camp Washington, greatest engine company in the United States of America, if I do say so myself. Captain Baker is a 26-year veteran of the fire service and a member of our union Local 48 Safety Committee. He's been a constant advocate for cancer prevention as long as I've known him, and has constantly advocated for the safety of our members, whether it be as an officer or through the union. Cap, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
So, Cap, what do you believe are the most critical steps a firefighter can take to reduce their cancer risk on the job?
By far, the biggest thing that we can do to help ourselves is to wear our PPE properly to the fullest extent throughout the entire incident, all the way up through and including overhaul, which most guys tend to, at that point in time, they're already tired. They've been worked hard, gone through one or two bottles of air, don't really feel like they want to continue to wear their SCBA because it's hot, it's heavy, restricts your breathing a little bit during some additional hard work, which most of the time is, as we know with overhaul, is pulling ceilings, a lot of opening up of the building, and then for the most part, shoveling that stuff out of the building. But that's the time when we're really exposed to the most, as far as an inhalation. We have a lot of the particulate net that's in the air that we don't really think about. Well past the point where we've heated ourselves up and absorbed whatever carcinogens that are going to be getting into our skin through the absorption method. So I would definitely say wearing your SCBA and your face piece as long through the incident as you possibly can, and then decon afterwards. Not only decon at the scene, doing the gross decon, keeping that gear, if possible, separated from the cab. I'm not going to necessarily. I'll advocate for a different type of clean cab than what a lot of people think. We try to get the dirty gear back to the firehouse outside of where we're riding at. I don't necessarily know that going to the extremes of keeping everything out of the cab constantly is the best thing for the public. It may be 100% for us, but if we keep our gear clean, clean the SCBAs properly after the fire, I think the clean cab can work with clean gear and clean equipment.
I know you've always advocated to us keeping our gear clean, switching things out afterwards,
Absolutely.
cleaning hose, cleaning all the little pieces. And you think that works in lieu of a clean cab then, right? If everything stays clean, we don't need to have all of the stuff out of our cab.
I absolutely think that works. Everybody knows that for years, if the unit day before or whatever system you use, units or platoons or shifts, whatever that day is that worked before you or 2 days before you, if they had a fire, you come in to start your shift, you put your equipment on the apparatus, and you go to check your SCBA. And as soon as you pull that SCBA out of the bracket, the entire seat is covered with plaster and insulation and everything else. So if it's carrying that, we know for sure it's carrying the cancer causing particles. So a big part of this is going to be the fire department allows the companies who were usually the first one or two engines and trucks, the guys that are in there that are getting the dirtiest, not only throughout the firefight, but also through the overhaul process, giving them time to get back to the firehouse and stay out of service long enough to actually get. We're lucky enough in Cincinnati, and obviously it's becoming a national standard now. They have 2 sets of turnout gear, have that second set of gear ready, change your gear out, take the old stuff, take it apart, get it prepared for laundering. Again, a lot of people don't think about it, but just put some EMS gloves on so we're not continually grinding that stuff into our skin. Get the old stuff, old PPE, prepared to be clean. Get the new gear on, and then clean your equipment up. Take that SCBA apart. A lot of guys want to just squirt it off at the scene, but until you get that bottle out and get all the cracks and crevices, take and scrub down your straps and your waist belts and things like that. Get that stuff really clean, and then the final part, obviously, is cleaning ourselves. Obviously, we know the high points of absorption. So I think in lieu of taking everything out of the cab itself, which is going to slow down our response once we get to the scene of a fire, which obviously we know time is critical as far as fire growth and probably more importantly, the reason we're there, rescue of civilians. If we can come off that apparatus with everything we need from the get-go, I think that's going to help everybody out. And if we can do it where it's already clean and ready to go, it's a win for us and for the public.
Absolutely. So you've been a company officer for a little while now, Cap. What do you believe the role of a company officer is in getting their members to take those steps and do those things necessary to prevent them from being exposed to those carcinogens?
I think the biggest thing is I don't think there's really any difference for the company officer getting buy-in from their members than it is with any other aspect of being a company officer. We have a company that all 5 members are a very tight-knit crew. We're all I think we're all considered friends, both on the job and off the job. For me as a supervisor for over 12 years now, I've always said I want to have as much fun as we can, do the job to the best of our ability, but don't put me in a position as your boss, as the supervisor, to have to be your boss. So if I tell you something, and I think every organization has it, there's a million rules, and we don't follow every rule, but I think we stress the really important ones. And when somebody comes in and says repeatedly, "Hey, wear your seatbelt. Why aren't you wearing your seatbelt? Wear your seatbelt. Hey, make sure you wear your mask. Hey, put some gloves on while we're loading hose after the fire. Hey, make sure that the Plima vent's hooked up when you come back from a run." Once you start hearing those things repeatedly, or something should be going off in the member's head, hey, this is something that's important to my officer. And it hopefully that officer will, when you first get to a company or a new member comes to the company, that officer has a little sit down and gives his or her expectations of what they want from their members. I don't know that necessarily that we pay a lot of lip service to cancer prevention, but we don't, as a structured organization, I don't think the fire department necessarily gives our officers all the information that they need to pass on to their members. I think a lot of it is, hey, don't bring your gear into the bunk room or into the kitchen or into the living quarters. I think maybe, and I'm sure not every organization has a great company officer class that you give when someone becomes an officer. And we don't necessarily always, we'll push out notices or new policies and procedures, but a lot of times it's just an email. There may be a video training associated with it that everybody's supposed to watch. But I don't think we necessarily enable our officers enough to really push home some of the bigger priorities, which obviously everyone knows. Cancer, heart disease are probably 2 of our biggest issues in the fire service right now. But I think we could probably do a better job of helping our officers help our members in the long run.
I've noticed working for you too, that you seem to always model the behavior you would like to see us have. You don't tell us to load hose without gloves on. You have your gloves on your hands. How important is that in communicating to your members and getting buy-in from your members?
I think it's just like anything else. I think every organization, including the fire department and probably every fire department out there, every company out there, has a guy who may be I don't care if you're an officer for 3 years or you've been an officer for 25 years. Is that officer leading by example? Are they getting a workout in? Are they out there getting a workout in with you? Are they just saying, hey, from 8 to 9, you guys need to go work out? Are they jumping out of the cab, going out and checking fire hydrants with you? Are they sitting up in the cab with the driver, BSing and drinking their coffee on the cold winter day while the young guys are out sinking the hydrants? If you don't lead by example, if I as an officer am not showing what needs to be done on a consistent basis or all the time, why should the member say, well, if he's not going to do it, why should I do it? I think that's just human nature more than anything. So like I said, you want to be friends with everybody, but hopefully you drive the point across that we can be friends, but I'm still the boss. And hopefully I don't have to ever say those words. Hopefully my example by, if I have to say, hey guys, make sure you connect the Plime event. If I say it once or twice, hopefully guys are thinking, hey, this is important to him. I see when he gets off the apparatus, he'll walk over and do it while the other members are taking their bunker gear off before he even gets undressed. Hopefully that'll be something that'll set in their minds. And then hopefully when they become supervisors further down the road as a company officer or a incident commander, that they'll continue to show and lead by example the same way.
Trickles out from everything. So I'd like to engage your thoughts as a member of our union. What do you believe the union's role is in helping to protect its members from the carcinogens?
A lot of it, I think it depends on the organization. Some unions are big enough and have enough funding that they do their own research and development. A lot of it is going to just be talking to other fire departments who have been through that process. You look at like Boston Fire Department, it has an entire wall in their union office of members who have died of cancer. Those places, and most of the time it's going to be your bigger departments that with the big budgets. Those were the departments and the unions that fought for 2 sets of turnout gear, for the particulate hoods, which started out as a high priced item, but pushing through the collective bargaining and the labor management process, that they were able to get these items for their members. And once that you start to get that ball rolling from the bigger standpoint with the big departments, hopefully it's a lot easier to be able to get the buy-in from the smaller departments, or from not really the department, but the smaller communities. If you're a one station fire department with maybe just one engine company, and you have a very small municipal budget, outfitting every member with a particulate hood at the cost of $80 or $90 a hood, that's a pretty big expense for them. So being able to just push for what either is a national standard or should be a national standard. Obviously NFPA revises every couple of years, and they have a committee that sits and looks at a lot of these things, but just being that advocate for the member to the municipality, bringing those new technologies forward, and then also bringing forward things like the medical exams, going through different types of blood work, pushing to get that PSA done, pushing insurance companies to get those PSA done earlier instead of at age 50, maybe 45 or 40 for firefighters, because the increased risk that comes along with the job. So pretty much everything from the gear to the budget cycle to, like I said, even pushing down into the insurance companies. And a lot of that is, there are studies out there. I believe Cleveland Clinic has done a pretty extensive research package on how a healthy lifestyles type program for a fire department can cut your insurance cost in the long run. Not only reducing injuries, but also reducing some of those earlier diagnoses, that if a member goes 10 or 12 years without getting a physical because they're 22, 25 years old, and they wait till they're 40, now all of a sudden maybe you catch cancer, a pancreatic cancer, in a stage 2 instead of a stage 4 when it's too late.
Mm-hmm. So you talked a little bit about the expenses. Now I know as the safety committee and as the union, it's more our role to advocate for everything. But when you're sitting down and you guys are looking at different options and you're deciding, okay, this is a fight worth having, this is not a fight worth having with administration, how do you guys make that cost benefit analysis on our new technologies and policies?
We generally try to keep cost out of it. We try not think of what the cost is. We're looking at what is the best, either PPE or testing. Like we were talking about different medical tests. We push for what is going to be to the greatest advantage for the member. Sometimes you're able to get those. Sometimes you're able to convince the city, hey, in the long run, this is going to save you more money. A lot of times that's just going to be up to the administration. But we're going to advocate for what the top end item is that's going to be able to help protect the member the most. And every once in a while, you're going to have to, that's the one you suggest, but you have another one in your back pocket that you say, well, if they're not going to give us A, maybe we believe that B or C is okay, but maybe you ask for A and you get A.
Mhm.
Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But obviously we're always going to push for whatever the top of the line is. The Cadillac, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't.
So when we're talking about cancer, education is obviously hugely important. If people don't know the risks, then they can't do things to help prevent the problems. Do you believe our education level on the cancer risks that are present in the job is sufficient?
On our job in Cincinnati, I think we do a pretty good job. I think I hate to use this term, and I hear it thrown around a lot from a lot of our older members. We say, we throw it out there and we say, well, it's too late for us. A lot of these measures for us, this is for the newer generation, for the young guys coming on. To a certain extent, it is. But we also have to look at what's the best way to get things across. Like I mentioned earlier, administration will send out policies, procedures, notices, maybe watch a video on your whatever your learning center is on the computer. But in the long run, what you have to look and see what type of medium is going to fit, and you may have to do multiple types. For older guys, the notices and the paper and things like that, those work really well. Local 48 did a video with the University of Cincinnati in conjunction with the University of Cincinnati with three to four of our members who were cancer survivors. One of whom had a cancer relapse and ended up passing away, Captain Joe Gunwick. But they were all at the same fire, at a 5-alarm fire at the Cincinnati Zoo. At that time, we thought, hey, this is the best way to be able to get it, is for guys to be able to watch it, see people that they know, guys that they've worked with on the job, see how it's affected them. To me, I think probably for the newer generations or the younger guys coming on the job, if you walk into a firehouse, what do you usually see? What's the first thing you see? You see guys doing this. So when the University of Cincinnati came to us and asked us about this, I said, put it out there on an app, put it out there on something that you can tap on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is. I think those are the ways, some of the better ways that guys are going to catch on, or you're going to get their attention and catch them and bring them in and try to figure out how to bring that message into them. Whether it's, I know Boston did a really good video with all the deceased firefighters' family members. Pretty hard, even for a young person. It's going to be tough to see a guy who they show pictures of him, played softball, weightlifted, did all those things all through his whole life. And then you see a picture of this firefighter when he's 43 years old and he looks like he's a 70-year-old man because of the cancer's eating him up. He's going through all the radiation and the chemo. We're very visual, I think, in our job. We very much want to have that bravado and that type A personality. And when you see what cancer can do to a firefighter, and not only with the men, we're seeing a heck of a lot more, and it's probably a higher percentage because there are fewer women in the fire service, but the ovarian cancer and the breast cancer, and these are it's affecting the women just as much, if not more, percentage wise, than it is the guys. So if you can come up with a magic pill that's going to cover every age range to kind of pull them in, that would be great. But I think that's like anything else in life. You're never going to be able to have a coverall to hit everything. You have to maybe try to pick and choose different medium for delivering that message to different members.
Meet people where they're at, try to get them to come to you type thing.
Absolutely.
So if I gave you the magic wand, you can implement any policy you want that the CFD doesn't currently have. What would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think really this is going to, I don't really think there's a whole lot that the Cincinnati Fire Department doesn't give our members the ability to do.
Mhm.
That ingrained theory of, well, what if we have another fire? If we bag up our gear at the scene and we're driving back to the firehouse and we get another fire. This isn't Detroit Hell Night or in the 1990s and early 2000s when the city was burning to the ground. It's not the war years in New York. It's nothing like that. It's not out in LA during the riots and things like that. Think how often do we really come across or get dispatched to another fire when we're coming back from one? It's so slim. We have to give our company officers the ability to let them know and let their members know it's okay to go back and stay out of service. If it's a good fire and you got a lot of cleanup, it's okay to go out of service for 2 hours afterwards. Get the equipment cleaned up and then get your butt in that shower. Get a good shower. Because you see guys when everybody's always, we're worried about getting that neck. What if we get an EMS run? There's 20 or 42 other companies in the city that can make that EMS run if needed. Give your members the ability to get a complete cleaning, apparatus, equipment, and then themselves. And then really to push it a little bit further is you got to start getting rehydrated and eating again afterwards too, right? We can't work at a fire for 3 hours, come back, do an hour of cleanup, get in the shower, and then just expect if another extensive run comes in or we get 4 or 5 more runs, your tank's empty, man. You got nothing left in you. So I would just like the Cincinnati Fire Department to let their members know, hey, it's okay to stay out of service. It's okay to have a company backed into your station while you're cleaning up. Heck, maybe those guys will give you a hand. They'll probably eat some of your leftovers too, but
that part for sure.
we could get that cleanup done a lot quicker, and then get our members cleaned up, get them showered, and get them in new clothes, and get their laundry and stuff going. And then you're back in service quicker, so you can make those runs. That would probably be the thing that I would like to see the most for us.
Outstanding. So this year, Ohio passed a cancer presumption law. I know you know plenty about it. I know we've had members that have tried to use it. I've heard that we've had people had difficulty using it. What are your thoughts on the law in general, how it's going, and how it's intended to work?
Obviously, the intent is being a presumptive law that it's presumed if you come down with a certain different type of cancer, there's a list of cancers that you're going to automatically be covered, and all your medical expenses will be taken care of because of the presumption that that the cancer was you got the cancer from being on the job from different incidents. In Cincinnati, we have have had since I would say the mid to late 90s a exposure book. It's obvious. It used to be obviously it was a book, an actual booklet with a carbon copy and everything. After each incident that you had, you would fill it out. It would ask all kinds of different questions. Did you wear your SCBA? What color was the smoke? Which company were you? Were you the first engine, second engine, truck? What did you do at the scene? Things like that. The problem is when you get back to the firehouse after a good working fire, filling out a paperwork is one of the last things you want to do. It's gone electronic. Again, that's a step in the right direction, but that's going to go back on the company officer again. Hey, guys, everybody come in here, or do it the next tour. It's just, but then the further away you get from the incident, the less priority it is in your mind. Those type of things, being able to track your exposures are going to help you. Unfortunately, from the information that I know, kind of the old pass the law so we can see what's in it kind of thing. The law was passed, but it was the onus of responsibilities on the member to prove to the state that they got the cancer from being on the fire department or from making certain responses. There is a attorney out of Columbus who is just probably over the top, one of the best, most knowledgeable people on this topic on firefighter presumptive type cancer cases. She has worked extensively with a number of our different members, and has had great success. The problem is it shouldn't take you all this hard work, and a year and a half of work and time and effort to be able to get the benefit that's been already passed by law, just to get the benefits that you should be getting. as a public servant that's doing this job.
Mhm.
I wish there were more people who had the knowledge. I don't have her name right now. We can get that for sure, but I don't know if there's a way to go back and revise that law to make it more simple, if that's the correct terminology. The heart and lung bill, heart and lung presumptive, it's almost a given at this point. I've not heard of anyone ever being denied for heart and lung presumption. We need to get cancer to that same place, just because the statistics show the numbers of firefighters. And people think cancer, it's not always pancreatic cancer. It's not always leukemia. Like Matt Alter, president of Local 48, always says, we routinely every year have guys going into the dermatologist and getting 5, 6, 7 spots taken off of them at age 30, at age 35, at age 40. And we see it happening all the time at work. We think it's no big deal. But when you go out and you start talking to the general population, that is so far out of the norm for people of our age to be having those type of things on a regular basis. So it would be great if you could just rubber stamp, hey, you got cancer, you're a firefighter, it's taken care of through that presumptive. But I think it may be time to revisit that and maybe rework that, so it's, I don't want to say in the more in the members' favor, but so it's easier for them to access that system. It's almost like trying to get into Fort Knox now to get that cancer presumptive ruling for the fire department member.
You say in the meantime, the most important thing is that members actually do track those exposures. Even if your department doesn't have an exposure book, just write down, I went to a fire on this day, it was a working fire, we had smoke, that type of thing.
Absolutely. When you started wearing your mask, how long you wore through overhaul. And again, when I came on the job in the mid to late 90s, nobody ever wore their face piece, or nobody even gave it a thought of wearing an SCBA on a car fire or a dumpster fire or a detached garage, or you're standing outside of a building and smoke's just pouring across the street. Excuse me. Obviously, we now know that a dumpster is probably one of the worst toxic soups that you could have. Get back from a distance, lob that deck gun into that thing and just drown it. You don't need to be up in there with a pipe pole or a ceiling hook, eating a bunch of smoke. And back when we first came on, everybody, it was obviously like we talk about, dirty gear and a dirty helmet was a badge of honor for guys. But they'd also blow their nose and see who had the most smoke boogers, who had the dirtiest snot coming out of a fire. So those are the things we want to obviously try to prevent if we can.
Absolutely. Well, Cap, I appreciate your time. This has been excellent. I hope everyone has learned a little. We can go from here and hopefully build a healthier fire department together.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening.